In the year 1833, Charles Darwin found himself upon the immense plains of Uruguay, where he encountered a biological marvel that rendered him utterly speechless. He meticulously documented in his personal journals an observation of a botanical bulwark, a plant so overwhelmingly dominant that it had enveloped hundreds of square miles, creating a living barrier impervious to both humans and horses. In his own estimation, it represented an encroachment of an unprecedented scale in historical records. However, Darwin was not observing a destructive entity. He was witnessing a fugitive. The plant that had subjugated the pampas was, in reality, a runaway noble, a prized horticultural specimen that had escaped the manicured confines of elite gardens and reverted to a wild state. If one could journey back to the grand dining halls of Imperial Rome or the table of Thomas Jefferson, this formidable thorny plant would have been the esteemed centerpiece of the meal. It was esteemed above all other leafy greens, considered more valuable than the very land it inhabited, and perceived as the ultimate emblem of refinement. Yet we supplanted this nutrient-rich, liver-cleansing colossus for the watery ease of celery, all because a monarch decreed we should don protective gloves. This is the narrative of the cardoon, the wild progenitor of the artichoke, and the gourmet superfood concealed behind a formidable defense. Our mission is to penetrate the protective layers to unearth culinary treasures. This potent medicinal quality was precisely why the cardoon was so revered in antiquity. Pliny the Elder, the Roman natural historian, dedicated extensive writings to it in the 1st century after Christ. He lamented, as older gentlemen often do, that cardoons commanded higher prices in the Roman marketplaces than the acreage they occupied. It was an indicator of affluence. In Rome, if you possessed wealth, you did not serve celery. You presented cardoon hearts, marinated in vinegar and garum, a clear signal of your ability to procure the finest. Fast forward to the genesis of America. Thomas Jefferson, arguably our most agriculturally inclined president, held a profound fascination with them. At Monticello, his Virginia estate, Jefferson allocated a significant portion of his meticulously designed garden solely to the cultivation of cardoons. Within his garden journal, which chronicled his botanical endeavors, he ranked them among his most cherished winter vegetables. He understood that a truly functional garden must provide fresh produce even when snow blanketed the landscape, and the cardoon served as his solution. For the Victorians in the 19th century, the cardoon was the quintessential Christmas vegetable. Its robust nature allowed it to be harvested in December, a time when most other garden produce was either deceased or dormant. It graced the holiday table as the undisputed star, frequently prepared by boiling and served with a rich sauce derived from marrow to counteract its inherent bitterness. It was a dietary cornerstone. It was esteemed. It was exceptionally palatable. So why is it absent from your local gourmet market? To comprehend the abandonment of the cardoon, we must examine its successor. In contemporary American supermarkets, if one desires a crisp, stalk-based vegetable, the choice invariably falls to celery. Celery is the archetype of an industrial agricultural product, uniform, easily transported, abundant in water, and entirely innocuous. Nutritionally, however, it is essentially flavored water that provides bulk to a dish but offers minimal physiological benefit. The cardoon stands in stark opposition to celery. While they bear a superficial resemblance as large, ribbed stalks growing in clusters, the cardoon is a veritable powerhouse of density and medicinal properties. It belongs to the Thistle family, a group of plants engineered to draw minerals from profound soil depths. Let us examine the concrete figures. In 100 grams, or approximately 3.5 ounces, modern celery provides a paltry 11 to 16 milligrams of magnesium. The cardoon, in contrast, delivers 42 milligrams. This is nearly a threefold increase in magnesium, a mineral essential for nerve function and muscle repair. Yet a significant portion of the U.S. population suffers from a clinical deficiency. Then there is potassium, the electrolyte vital for regulating blood pressure and maintaining cardiovascular health. A cup of celery offers about 260 milligrams. A cup of cardoon, however, contains approximately 400 milligrams. To contextualize this, it is comparable to a medium banana, but without the accompanying sugar surge or carbohydrate load. It is an electrolyte-rich powerhouse, cleverly disguised as a vegetable. But its true potency lies not merely in its mineral content, but in its inherent medicinal qualities. The cardoon shares a kinship with milk thistle, a plant renowned in the realm of herbal remedies. Similar to its relative, the cardoon is laden with silymarin and a specific compound known as silibin. Silibin is a potent physiological agent. It stimulates the liver to produce bile, which is the body's primary mechanism for expelling toxins and metabolizing fats. When you consume cardoon, you are not simply ingesting fiber. You are actively assisting your liver in purifying your bloodstream. It is a functional food in its most authentic sense, a liver tonic that can be prepared through grilling. Furthermore, it possesses another hidden asset within its purple blossoms, cardoon. This is a formidable enzyme that functions akin to rennet. For centuries, shepherds in Portugal did not resort to slaughtering calves to obtain rennet for cheesemaking. They steeped cardoon flowers in milk. It is a naturally occurring vegetarian coagulant, intrinsically encoded within the genetic makeup of a wild plant. The decline of the cardoon is a classic illustration of internal discord. The cardoon has a biological sibling, the globe artichoke. They are in fact members of the same species, but they were selectively bred for distinct characteristics. The globe artichoke was cultivated to yield a substantial, fleshy flower bud. The cardoon, conversely, was to produce large, succulent stems. For millennia, they coexisted harmoniously. However, as agriculture transitioned into its industrial phase, cultivators encountered a significant hurdle with the cardoon. It demands considerable attention. To render a cardoon exceptionally delicious, ensuring its creamy white texture and sweetness, rather than its inherent bitterness and fibrousness, a practice known as blanching is required. Approximately 1 month prior to harvest, a farmer would venture into the field, gather the enormous leaves into bundles, and encase the stalks in straw, burlap, or soil. This process effectively blocks sunlight. In the absence of solar radiation, photosynthesis ceases. The chlorophyll dissipates, and the bitter compounds leach away, leaving behind a sweet, tender stalk. This labor-intensive procedure yields a vegetable befitting royalty, but it poses an insurmountable challenge for mechanized farming. Mechanically wrapping thousands of plants in burlap is an impossibility. It necessitates manual intervention. The globe artichoke, on the other hand, requires minimal effort. One simply harvests the bud, places it in a container, and markets it for a considerable price. The cardoon was forsaken not due to any deficiency in quality, but because the modern agricultural paradigm perceives manual labor as a flaw. We engineered out the effort, and in doing so, we inadvertently diminished its nutritional value and yield. Yet nature rarely yields passively. When European settlers introduced the cardoon to the Americas, specifically to the fertile soils of the Argentine pampas and the valleys of California, it eventually escaped cultivation. In its wild state, deprived of human intervention for wrapping, the cardoon reverted to its primal form. It developed formidable spines and attained immense size, transforming from a mere vegetable into an untamed conqueror. In contemporary California, the wild variant is recognized as artichoke thistle and is officially classified as a noxious weed. There exists a profound irony in this situation. Food banks in California struggle to procure fresh produce, while the state government expends millions on herbicide application for vast quantities of wild gourmet food. We are effectively poisoning a liver-supporting superfood simply because it thrived outside designated agricultural zones. We demonize it as a menace because it flourishes without our explicit permission. Now, a word of caution. You may be tempted to pull over your vehicle along the Pacific Coast Highway and attempt to harvest a wild cardoon. Refrain from doing so, as this plant is designated a noxious weed. It is among the most heavily treated plants in the American West. Government agencies routinely spray these wild growths with potent industrial herbicides, such as glyphosate and 24D. These residues cannot be washed away. Consuming cardoon found by the roadside is akin to playing Russian roulette with chemicals. You are destined to lose. Furthermore, wild artichoke thistle has evolved to possess far more pronounced spines than its cultivated heirloom counterparts, making its preparation a genuinely arduous undertaking. Instead, the solution lies in reintroducing this magnificent plant to the sanctuary of the garden. Procure certified heirloom seeds. For a truly authentic historical experience, you can acquire seeds directly from the Monticello shop, cultivating the very lineage that Thomas Jefferson himself nurtured. Alternatively, retailers such as Baker Creek or Amazon offer exceptional cultivars like Rouge d'Ajaccio or Golden Titch. These varieties have been specifically bred for tenderness and manageability. Here is how to cultivate the emperor's vegetable. Cardoons are resilient perennials in USDA hardiness zones 7 and warmer, meaning they regenerate annually. In colder regions, such as zones 5 or 6, they can be grown as annuals by initiating them indoors early, much like tomatoes. They require ample space. A single cardoon plant can expand to 4 feet in width and 6 feet in height. It is an architectural marvel, resembling a prehistoric silver fountain, and destined to be a striking focal point in your landscape. Sow the seeds in the spring, after the final frost. They thrive in full sun and rich soil. Then, revive the forgotten art of blanching. If you lack burlap, alternative methods exist. Approximately 3 to 4 weeks before you intend to consume it, gather the leaves into a bundle and wrap the base of the plant with cardboard or black plastic trash bags, securing them with twine. Mound soil around the base. This process encourages the stalks to turn white, sweet, and tender. Be aware, however, that cardoon is an aggressively self-seeding plant. If allowed to flower, it will attempt to dominate your garden, mirroring its conquest of the pampas. Ensure you remove the flower heads before they transform into fluffy seed dispersal units, unless, of course, your intention is to harvest the purple petals for crafting your own vegetarian cheese. The flavor of a homegrown, blanched cardoon is remarkably complex, far from the one-dimensional profile of celery. It evokes a fusion of artichoke heart, celery, and salsify, a veritable culinary offspring. It is savory, substantial, and rich, ideal for braising in broth or frying in breadcrumbs. By cultivating cardoon, you engage in a profoundly rebellious act. You are rejecting the culture of convenience that has led us to the insipid celery stick. You are choosing a vegetable that commands a measure of respect, necessitating a pair of leather gloves and a few weeks of patient dedication. In return, it offers a harvest that fortifies your liver, replenishes your pantry during the harshest winter months, and connects you to a culinary legacy that extends back to the very foundations of this nation. Do not settle for the easily pampered artichoke. Cultivate its wild progenitor.